There is something happening inside your body right now that you cannot feel, cannot see, and most likely were never told about in clear enough language to actually do something about. If you have been eating the way most Americans eat, if you have been living the way most modern adults live, your bloodstream is almost certainly carrying more sugar than it should be. Not dramatically, not in a way that gives you obvious symptoms, just quietly, steadily, day after day. And that quiet excess is doing real damage to your blood vessels, your kidneys, your heart, and your brain. The good news is this: your body has a built-in system for clearing that sugar. And in the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly how to activate it, support it, and make it work as powerfully as it possibly can for your body, specifically after 60. Stay with me. Hello and welcome back. I am Dr. Carter, and this channel exists for one reason: to give adults over 60 honest, verified, medically accurate health information in plain language. No exaggeration, no fear tactics, just real science you can actually use. Before I get into the strategies, I want to start with something important: an honest conversation about what the words sugar detox actually mean. Because the internet is full of dramatic claims about juice cleanses, special teas, and 3-day protocols that promise to flush sugar from your system overnight. I want to be direct with you. Most of those claims are not supported by science, and some of them are potentially dangerous for older adults, particularly for anyone managing medications or existing health conditions. What is real, what is verified, and what I am going to walk you through today is how your body actually processes and clears excess blood sugar through its own biological systems, and how you can support those systems through specific, evidence-based daily choices. This is not a detox in the commercial sense of that word. This is something better. It is a clear, honest explanation of the physiology involved, and a practical plan built on what the CDC, the American Diabetes Association, and peer-reviewed science actually support. Let us start with the biology, because once you understand how your body manages sugar, everything else falls into place naturally. How your body actually processes and clears blood sugar. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your digestive system breaks them down into glucose. That glucose enters your bloodstream. Your blood sugar rises. The pancreas responds by releasing insulin, the hormone that acts like a key unlocking the doors of your cells to let glucose enter and be used for energy. When your cells have taken in what they need, any remaining glucose gets converted to glycogen, which is a stored form of sugar held primarily in the liver and muscles for later use. Research published in PMC confirms that the liver stores glycogen in amounts of approximately 80 grams at any given time, available to be released back into the blood when energy is needed between meals. But here is where the problem develops. When blood sugar rises repeatedly and stays elevated over time, the body's storage systems fill up. The liver's glycogen stores become saturated. The muscles, which are the body's largest glucose storage depot, become less responsive to insulin signals. And instead of being stored efficiently, excess glucose gets converted to fat in the liver. Researchers call this hepatic fat accumulation, and it is one of the earliest and most significant consequences of chronically elevated blood sugar. The kidneys are also involved in this process in a way that most people never learn about. According to research published in the American Journal of Managed Care, the kidneys filter enormous volumes of blood every day. Under normal blood sugar conditions, the kidneys reabsorb nearly all the glucose that passes through their filters and return it to the bloodstream. But when blood sugar rises above approximately 180 milligrams per deciliter, the kidneys reach what is called the renal threshold. At that point, they can no longer reabsorb all the glucose and begin allowing it to pass out of the body in urine. This is the biological mechanism behind one of the classic warning signs of elevated blood sugar: the presence of glucose in urine and the frequent urination that accompanies it. So your body has real mechanisms for clearing excess blood sugar. The liver stores it as glycogen. The muscles absorb and burn it during activity. The kidneys filter and excrete it when levels are very high. And these systems work best when they are properly supported, which brings us to the specific strategies that activate and optimize each one. Strategy 1. Drink significantly more water than you think you need. This is the simplest, most accessible, and most consistently underused strategy available to older adults managing blood sugar. And the science behind it is straightforward. Hydration directly supports your kidney's ability to filter and excrete excess glucose. When you are well hydrated, the kidneys can process blood more efficiently, filter out glucose that has exceeded the body's normal reabsorption threshold, and move it out of the body through urine. When you are dehydrated, that process slows significantly. Research cited by medical sources confirms that dehydration causes glucose to become more concentrated in the bloodstream because there is less fluid diluting it. On top of that, dehydration triggers the release of a hormone called vasopressin, which instructs the liver to produce more glucose. The result is that mild dehydration, the kind that many older adults experience every single day without knowing it, can cause a measurable rise in blood sugar that has nothing to do with what you ate. For older adults specifically, this risk is compounded by a well-documented physiological change that occurs with aging. The sensation of thirst diminishes. Your body may be significantly underhydrated before you feel thirsty enough to reach for a glass of water. This means that for adults over 60, waiting for thirst to signal the need to drink is not a reliable strategy. You need to drink on a deliberate schedule. The ADA's 2025 Standards of Care specifically recommends water as the primary beverage for adults managing blood sugar, and explicitly recommends it over sugar-sweetened beverages, artificially sweetened drinks, and fruit juices. The target for most adults is 8 to 10 cups of water daily, though this varies based on body size, activity level, medications, and climate. Start tonight. Keep a glass of water on your nightstand and drink it before your feet touch the floor every morning. Keep a water bottle visible throughout the day as a continuous reminder. Replace one sugary drink or juice per day with plain water. These are not dramatic interventions, but they support one of the most fundamental blood sugar clearing mechanisms your body has. Strategy 2. Use your muscles, because muscle is your body's most powerful glucose sink. Here is the piece of biology that most people over 60 are never clearly told, and it may be the most important thing in this entire video. Muscle tissue is the single largest site of glucose uptake in the entire human body. When your muscles are actively contracting during movement, they pull glucose directly out of the bloodstream to use as fuel. And crucially, this glucose uptake during physical activity operates largely through a pathway that does not require insulin. This means that even if your insulin sensitivity is reduced, which it commonly is in older adults, your muscles can still absorb significant amounts of blood sugar during movement. Research published in PMC on glycogen metabolism confirms that skeletal muscle represents the largest glycogen storage depot in the body. When you walk, climb stairs, garden, swim, or do any form of physical activity, your muscles draw on that circulating blood glucose. They do it immediately, efficiently, and without requiring insulin to do the work. This is why the ADA's 2026 Standards of Care specifically identifies both aerobic exercise and resistance training as foundational components of blood sugar management for older adults. And this is why research published in Diabetes Care found that 3 15-minute walks after meals reduced 24-hour blood sugar levels more effectively than a single 45-minute walk at another time of day. The timing matters. Post-meal walking catches the blood sugar rise at its peak and actively pulls it back down. For older adults who have joint pain, balance concerns, or limited mobility, the principle still applies. Chair exercises, water walking, gentle cycling, and slow-paced movement all activate the same muscle glucose uptake mechanism. The goal is not intensity. The goal is movement in the body within 30 to 60 minutes after eating, when blood sugar is at its post-meal peak. If you do nothing else differently after watching this video, make post-meal movement a daily habit. A 15-minute walk after dinner, a gentle stretch routine after lunch, standing and doing light activity rather than sitting immediately after a meal. Your muscles are waiting to do this work. Give them the opportunity. Strategy 3. Systematically replace added sugar with foods that support glucose clearance. The body cannot clear what you keep adding. This sounds obvious, but it is where most people struggle most. Not because they lack discipline, but because the modern food environment is specifically engineered to make high-sugar foods maximally appealing and maximally convenient. Let me be precise about what we mean by added sugar versus natural sugar. The ADA and CDC distinguish clearly between these categories. Natural sugars found in whole fruits, vegetables, and dairy products arrive with fiber, water, protein, and micronutrients that moderate how quickly glucose enters the bloodstream. Added sugars, the kind found in sweetened beverages, packaged snacks, white bread, pastries, flavored yogurts, condiments, and many breakfast cereals, have been stripped of that context. They digest quickly, enter the blood rapidly, create sharp glucose spikes, and demand an aggressive insulin response. The dietary guidelines for Americans recommend limiting added sugar to no more than 10% of total daily calories. For an adult consuming 1,800 calories per day, that is approximately 45 grams, or about 11 teaspoons of added sugar daily. The average American currently consumes significantly more than that. For older adults, the strategy is not complete elimination. The ADA standards of care are explicit that there is no single perfect diet for blood sugar management, and that individual preferences, cultural practices, and food access all matter. What the research does support consistently is a gradual, sustained reduction in the sources of added sugar that have the most significant impact on blood glucose. Sugary drinks are the single most impactful category to address first. A 12-ounce can of regular soda contains approximately 39 grams of sugar that enters the bloodstream within minutes of consumption. Fruit juices, despite their natural reputation, deliver concentrated sugar without the fiber of whole fruit and cause rapid glucose spikes. Sweet tea, flavored coffee drinks, and energy drinks fall into the same category. Replacing these with water, unsweetened herbal tea, or plain sparkling water is the single dietary change that consistently shows the largest and fastest impact on blood sugar levels. After beverages, white refined carbohydrates are the second most impactful category. White bread, white rice, white pasta, and crackers digest rapidly into glucose. Replacing them gradually with whole grain alternatives that contain more fiber slows glucose absorption meaningfully. The CDC's diabetes meal planning guidance specifically recommends making at least half of grain choices whole grains for exactly this reason. The ADA's 2025 nutritional guidance also specifically emphasizes legumes as a highly beneficial category for blood sugar management. Beans, lentils, and chickpeas are rich in fiber and protein, have a low glycemic index, and slow glucose absorption substantially. Adding a half cup of beans to a meal several times a week is a practical, affordable, and research-supported blood sugar strategy. Strategy 4. Support your liver, the organ that regulates blood sugar between every meal. Most conversations about blood sugar focus on what happens after you eat, but research published in PMC on hepatic glucose production confirms that your liver is actively managing your blood sugar during every hour of every day, including all the hours between meals. The liver is responsible for approximately 80% of the body's endogenous glucose production. Between meals, when blood sugar drops, the liver breaks down stored glycogen and releases glucose into the bloodstream to keep your brain and organs supplied. When blood sugar rises after a meal, the liver removes glucose from the blood and stores it as glycogen for later use. It is a continuous regulatory process that never stops. When the liver becomes overloaded with fat, as it does in people who consume excess sugar and refined carbohydrates consistently over time, this regulatory function becomes impaired. The liver becomes less efficient at storing glucose after meals. It becomes less accurate in its glucose release between meals. Blood sugar becomes less stable overall. This condition, called metabolic dysfunction-associated steatotic liver disease, or fatty liver, is directly linked to chronically elevated blood sugar and insulin resistance. Supporting liver health is therefore directly connected to supporting blood sugar clearance. The most evidence-supported strategies for liver health in the context of blood sugar management include reducing fructose consumption, which is the form of sugar that is processed almost entirely in the liver and is most directly linked to hepatic fat accumulation. High fructose corn syrup, found in sodas, processed foods, and many condiments, is particularly impactful in this regard. Increasing dietary fiber supports liver health by slowing the absorption of all carbohydrates from the gut, reducing the glucose load that reaches the liver after meals. The ADA recommends a minimum fiber intake of 14 grams per 1,000 calories consumed. Vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds are the primary dietary sources. Coffee, consumed without added sugar or sweetened creamers, has been documented in multiple peer-reviewed studies as associated with a reduced risk of fatty liver disease and improved liver enzyme markers. While this is observational research rather than a direct intervention, it represents one of the most consistently replicated dietary associations in hepatology research. Strategy 5. Prioritize deep restorative sleep every single night. This one consistently surprises people, but the connection between sleep and blood sugar is one of the most well-established in all of metabolic research. During deep sleep, the body performs critical hormonal restoration. Growth hormone is released, supporting tissue repair and glucose metabolism. Cortisol levels drop to their lowest point of the day, reducing the glucose-raising effect that cortisol has on the liver. Insulin sensitivity, meaning how efficiently the cells respond to insulin, is partially restored during deep sleep. When sleep is inadequate or fragmented, the hormonal picture reverses. Cortisol remains elevated. The hunger hormone ghrelin rises while leptin, the satiety hormone, falls. Research consistently documents that sleep-deprived individuals show higher fasting blood glucose levels the following day and reduced insulin sensitivity. Studies show that even a single night of poor sleep can measurably elevate blood sugar the next morning. For older adults, the ADA 2026 Standards of Care acknowledges the relationship between sleep quality and glycemic management, noting that cognitive and functional decline in older adults with diabetes is worsened by poor sleep, and that stabilizing sleep is a meaningful component of overall metabolic health. The practical guidance is consistent with what the American Heart Association recommends for cardiovascular health. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Consistent bedtime and wake time 7 days a week. A dark, cool sleeping environment free from bright light and screen exposure in the hour before bed. These are not indulgences. They are metabolic interventions with documented effects on blood sugar regulation. Strategy 6. Manage stress through physical movement and daily routine. When you experience stress, two hormones rise in your bloodstream almost immediately: cortisol and adrenaline. Both of these hormones instruct the liver to release glucose into the blood. This is part of the ancient fight-or-flight response. Your body is preparing you for physical action by flooding your system with readily available energy. The problem for modern older adults is that the stress triggers are often psychological, financial, social, or emotional rather than physical. The glucose gets released, but the physical exertion that was supposed to burn it never happens. Blood sugar rises, insulin responds, and if this cycle repeats daily for months and years, the cumulative metabolic burden is significant. Research cited by Healthline and supported by multiple peer-reviewed studies confirms that stress management through regular physical movement is one of the most effective and underutilized tools for blood sugar control. Walking specifically because it is gentle enough for most older adults, accessible without equipment or gym memberships, and effective at using the blood glucose that stress hormones have released, is consistently recommended by both the CDC and ADA as a cornerstone of blood sugar management. Mindfulness-based practices have also shown documented effects. A review of studies published in the peer-reviewed literature found that mindfulness-based stress reduction was associated with improvements in insulin secretion and glycemic control in people with chronic diabetes. These effects are modest but real, and they compound with other strategies. The practical starting point is straightforward. When you feel stressed, move. Even 5 to 10 minutes of walking outdoors or gentle stretching in your living room begins burning the glucose that stress hormones have released and signals your nervous system to begin its recovery. Over time, building daily movement into your routine at consistent times creates the most reliable and sustainable blood sugar benefit. An important word about what sugar detox cannot do. Before I close, I want to say something clearly and honestly. There is no protocol, no supplement, no tea, no special food combination that will dramatically clear years of elevated blood sugar from your body in a matter of days. That is not how human physiology works, and claims that suggest otherwise are not supported by science. What is true, and what the evidence firmly supports, is this: the body's blood sugar regulation systems are remarkably responsive to consistent daily lifestyle changes. Older adults in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who make sustained improvements in hydration, physical activity, dietary quality, sleep, and stress management see measurable improvements in blood sugar markers, including fasting glucose and HbA1c, over weeks and months. The ADA 2026 Standards of Care is explicit that for older adults in generally good health, the primary goal is stable, well-managed blood sugar that supports quality of life, mobility, and cognitive function. The strategies in this video all work toward that goal through mechanisms that are well documented and evidence-based. One final and essential point. If you are currently taking medication for blood sugar, whether that is metformin, insulin, or any other prescribed treatment, please do not reduce or stop any medication based on lifestyle changes without working directly with your physician. Lifestyle improvements can reduce the dose of medication needed over time, but that is a medical conversation that requires your doctor's involvement and monitoring. Let me bring everything together clearly. Your body clears excess blood sugar through the liver, the muscles, the kidneys, and cellular uptake driven by insulin. Every one of those systems works better when you are well hydrated, physically active, eating fiber-rich whole foods with reduced added sugar, sleeping adequately, and managing stress through movement and routine. Drink 8 to 10 cups of water daily, prioritizing it as your primary beverage. Move your body within 30 to 60 minutes of every meal to activate muscle glucose uptake. Replace added sugar sources, starting with sugary drinks as your most impactful first step. Reduce fructose-heavy processed foods to support liver function. Sleep 7 to 9 hours consistently to restore insulin sensitivity overnight. Walk or move gently when stress arises to burn the glucose that stress hormones release. These are not temporary cleanses. They are the daily conditions under which your body's blood sugar systems operate at their best. Build them into your life consistently, and your body will respond. Not overnight, but steadily, measurably, in ways that genuinely matter for how you feel, how you move, and how long you stay healthy. If this video helped you today, please share it with someone who is managing high blood sugar or who has recently been told they are pre-diabetic. The information they need to take meaningful action is exactly what we covered here today. Subscribe to this channel for weekly health content that is verified, honest, and built specifically for adults who want to live well and understand what is happening inside their bodies. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.